Hey folks, BlackCross here. Welcome to another discussion video. This one, I figure I'll go ahead and real quickly talk about this one because of the fact that after the Nintendo Direct, towards the end of the Direct itself, they basically announced that the majority of the Final Fantasy games are going to be released for the Nintendo Switch. For example, you have Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, 10-2, 12, 15 Pocket Edition, we'll get to that in just a sec, World of Final Fantasy Mania, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody, and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. So, that's a lot of Final Fantasy games to introduce to the Nintendo Switch. What's funny to know is that it's not just the Nintendo Switch that's getting these games. Xbox will be getting Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, 10-2, 12, 15 Pocket Edition, and World of Final Fantasy Mayhem. So, the only thing that Microsoft is not going to be getting is the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon and Crystal Chronicles. I'm not sure why Microsoft couldn't get those two games in particular, but for whatever reason they did not. But they did get at least the main Final Fantasy titles, such as, like I said, 7, 9, 10, 10-2, 12. So, basically, yeah, the stuff that you could only get exclusively from Sony's console, you can now get on the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One. So this is good news to hear. This is actually really good news. So, while that may be the case, there are a couple questions that I have to ask in regards with this news. For starters, let's go ahead and just cover the fact of where's Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII is overall critically acclaimed to be probably one of the not so good Final Fantasy games. It's been years since I've last played Final Fantasy VIII, but I will admit that I can't really say a fair assessment unless I actually replay it again, and just to say, okay, I now know a little bit better about Final Fantasy VIII, because whenever I first played it, it wasn't really that good of an experience. But then again, it could be because of the fact that I was playing it the wrong way, I guess. But Final Fantasy VIII is not available for PlayStation 4, so that's why it's not available for Nintendo Switch or the Xbox One for that matter. But who's to say that whenever Final Fantasy VIII does actually become available, whenever it does become available, if it will be available for the other two consoles as well. You also have the fact that there's the previous titles that was released before 7 that have yet to have been re-released, period. Now, record, I think some of the Final Fantasy titles has actually been released on like the NES and the SNES Classic Editions. But even still, why have they not become available for the other consoles as well? I think for some people, and I would actually argue with them as well, that Final Fantasy VI is one of the better titles as well. So why not go ahead and just do a re-release of those titles as well so that everybody can try them out? And they have yet done that. So it's... Record, you do have the later series, so that's a good thing. But the fact that you haven't bothered pushing out the earlier titles seems to be a little bit unfair, I think. So, I mean, you have such as many people who wants to at least play Final Fantasy 1 through, like, 3. And then you have just as many people who wants to try out 5 and 6, for that matter. But at least you'll get to, for those of you who have either a Nintendo Switch or an Xbox, you'll still get to play 7, 9, 10, 10-2, and 12, as previously stated. Now let's get on with Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. That's where the most confusing part comes in for me. Because originally when it first was announced, I figured, okay, so this is a Final Fantasy 15 edition, but for your phone app. This is actually pretty interesting. However, though, apparently, I don't know if it became a huge success or not. I don't know. I haven't really read on it or anything like that. But apparently Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition got released for the PlayStation 4 about a week ago, I want to say. I think about a week ago at this point. And I was like, wait, why is it available for the PlayStation 4? Well, apparently it's also available for Nintendo Switch and Xbox One. Now, I get the fact that if PlayStation 4 has it, so should Xbox One. That makes sense, but still, why would you have a Pocket Edition available on your console when it was originally made for the handheld mobile devices? It just seems kind of weird to me. Now, the Nintendo Switch, I have no doubt in my mind that it could probably handle Final Fantasy 15 by itself. The fact that it could run Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, as well as having the balls to handle both Skyrim as well as Diablo 3. I have no doubt in my mind that they could handle Final Fantasy 15. So why is it that Nintendo Switch only has Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition versus the actual regular Final Fantasy 15? I don't know why they haven't got it, but they've got the Pocket Edition. Now, again, I don't know, other than like the graphic differences. The gameplay differences is that it's more or less overhead, rather it's the third-person view, sort of like Kingdom Hearts style of gameplay that Final Fantasy 15 has gotten itself into. But Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition is slightly different gameplay altogether. And I mean, I can imagine that Nintendo liked it, and they said, hey, could we get it on the Nintendo Switch? And Square Enix was like, yeah, we can easily put it on there. Wouldn't be that hard at all. And really it wouldn't be, because that's what it was designed for. It was designed to fit into a mobile device, and it was designed to where it would be easier to play the game on the mobile phone. But for it to be released on a console, I just thought it was weird. But then again, I guess because of the positive feedback that it got on mobile devices, they figure, why don't we just go ahead and just release it on the console and get more profit from it? Now, record, you don't get a physical edition, you just get the digital version. Much like how Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, 10, 2, and 12 will be for the other two mentioned consoles. It's practically all going to be digital, probably. Although, if it turns out there is a physical edition of Final Fantasy 7, I would be extremely ticked off. Just saying. There's also World of Final Fantasy Mayhem. For those that don't know, it's basically the final edition for World of Final Fantasy with all the DLC content included. It may have some extra stuff, but for those that have just the regular edition, it will also be available for the PlayStation 4. It's for all platforms, Steam included. World of Final Fantasy Mayhem, again, I think it's just because of the fact that it's basically with DLC included, maybe a few things extra, I'm not sure. But that's what I'm getting at for the most part. You also have, like I said before, Chocobo Mystery Dungeon Everybody and Crystal Chronicles, which is only for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. Now, I can't say anything towards those two, but I can say, why is it only licensed for Sony and Nintendo Switch? I get that Crystal Chronicles was released for the GameCube, and I was surprised to see that it was also going to be available for the PlayStation 4. But the fact that it wasn't available for the Xbox One, I don't know why. It just seems kind of weird to me that they have not leased it for Microsoft. Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, again, I'm surprised that they didn't lease it on that, but it will be available for the two consoles. Now, of course, the cool thing about, I've talked about Crystal Chronicles in my last discussion video, but Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, everybody, apparently you can have two-player couch co-op on it. You know, it's basically designed to where you can take the Joy-Cons, the two Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Switch, and you can give the second one to a second person, and you can play like that. And I was like, that's actually very interesting. I'm glad that they actually considered doing something like that, and it's something like that alone that makes me think to myself, it's like, you know what, this might be actually worth it, you know? I don't know if it would be worth it to get for the PlayStation 4 or the Nintendo Switch, but because of the fact that Chocobo Mystery Dungeon is basically like you would imagine, just a dungeon crawler RPG game, it would probably be better for the Nintendo Switch, obviously. So that's what I'm thinking would probably be the better design. But as for Crystal Chronicles, we still don't know if they're going to have cross-play functionality. I imagine it probably won't, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But like I said, I'm just slightly confused that we didn't get any of the other Final Fantasy titles. Like, obviously, Final Fantasy 13 is still, like, only for PlayStation 3. As far as I know, they have not done, like, a remaster or a re-release for 13 yet. If they do, they're going to do, like, a trilogy collection set. As far as I know, that has not been announced, or if it has, I had no idea about it. And then, of course, like I said, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 has not had a re-release. A couple of them may have had their own releases in the NES and SNES editions, but it still seems that they have not released them for the other 3 consoles. So we'll just see, and hopefully they'll actually, like, listen to some of these responses. Like, if people really want them, which I imagine people do, we will see a bigger response going on, and they'll eventually put them out there. Hopefully Final Fantasy VIII and the other Final Fantasy games eventually. So, but anyway, I want to go ahead and quickly kind of talk to you guys about it. Just a quick little update in terms of, like, these Final Fantasy games actually being available for everyone now. So in other words, it didn't matter if you were a PC or PS4, Xbox One, or Nintendo Switch, you can virtually get them on any platform. So that's awesome, I think. Personally, I think that's something that everyone absolutely wanted to see, is that all these games will be available for the majority of every console. So, anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you later, guys.